It was a cloudy afternoon when the police arrived at the old gas station on Willow Street. People were filling their cars, buying snacks, and walking with kids. No one expected what would happen next. A man in a dark coat stood near Pump 4, quietly watching the sky. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just waited. Then the police surrounded him. 6 officers, guns drawn, shouted, "Get on the ground. Hands where we can see them." The man didn't fight. He didn't run. Slowly he dropped to his knees and placed his hands behind his head. His face was calm, his eyes full of something no one could understand. Fear, no, sadness. Maybe, but mostly silence. As the officers cuffed him, a woman in the crowd whispered, "Is that the man from the news?" "He matches the description," someone else said. "He's the thief. The one they're looking for." The officer leading the arrest, Claire Hayes, checked the report again. The suspect was wanted for robbery, maybe more. No ID, no home address, just a blurry camera photo from 2 nights ago. But this man didn't look like a criminal. He looked lost. Claire leaned down. "What's your name?" The man didn't answer. She repeated, "Your name?" Still silence. As they walked him to the police van, an old woman standing by the door dropped her coffee. Her hands shook as she looked into his face. "It's him," she whispered. "After all these years." But when Claire turned to ask who she meant, the woman disappeared into the crowd. Inside the van, the man sat quietly. His hands rested on his lap, his eyes staring straight ahead. He didn't blink much, didn't seem afraid. After a while, he spoke just one sentence, in a soft voice. "Check the basement." Claire turned around. "What basement?" But the man didn't speak again. At the police station, the officers searched him. He had no wallet, no phone, no keys, nothing, except a small black bag hanging across his shoulder. Claire opened the bag. Inside, they found strange items. A torn photo of a little girl in a yellow dress, a drawing of a house with no windows, a tiny shoe, a map with red X's on it, and a folded list of names. 23 names. All children. Claire froze. She remembered 2 of those names. Missing kids from cold cases. Children who had disappeared years ago and were never found. "What is this?" she whispered. "Who is this man?" She ran the names through the system. 8 matched with unsolved missing persons reports. The rest, still unknown. Another officer came in. "We've checked his fingerprints. No match in the system. He's not in any database." Claire stared at the man through the glass window. He sat alone. Calm, looking at the wall. No reaction. No emotion. The chief came in. "What do we have?" Claire showed him the bag. "I think we've arrested someone important. Maybe a witness. Maybe something more." The chief raised an eyebrow. "Then why won't he talk?" "I don't know," Claire said. "But he told me something strange."
"What? Check."
"The basement?" The chief frowned. "Basement? What basement?" "I don't know, but it felt like a clue." That night, Claire took the photo from the man's bag and scanned it. She zoomed in on the background. A mailbox, a number 74, and a tree with a broken branch. It looked familiar. She pulled up old case files. One of them matched. A child named Maya Johnson had disappeared from a house with the same number. No signs of forced entry, just gone. Claire's heart raced. She drove to the address, now empty for years. The front door was sealed, but with her badge, she got in. Inside, dust covered everything. Broken furniture, shattered glass. The place felt cold, even though it was summer. Then, she found the basement door. It was locked tight with 2 chains, but something in her gut told her to open it. She used her tools and broke the lock. The door creaked as she opened it, revealing a narrow staircase. The smell of damp and mold hit her nose. She covered her mouth and walked down slowly. At the bottom, her flashlight landed on something that made her stop. Tiny handprints on the wall, old toys, a mattress on the floor, and writings into the wall with something sharp. "I want to go home." Claire's breath caught. She looked around and whispered, "Oh my God." Back at the station, the man still sat in silence. But when Claire returned and entered the room, he looked at her for the first time. She placed the photo of the basement in front of him. "I went there. I saw it." He gave a slow nod. She asked, "Are you trying to help us? Are these children still alive?" He whispered, "Some are." Claire leaned forward. "Who are you?" He didn't answer. She pushed the list of names toward him. "Where are they?" He looked at the list, touched one name with his finger, and softly said, "She's waiting." Claire stared at him. This man wasn't a criminal. He was a witness, maybe a survivor. And suddenly, she realized they hadn't arrested a suspect. They had found a key to a story much bigger than anyone imagined, and the truth was just beginning to surface. Claire couldn't sleep that night. The photo of the basement, the children's names, and the silent man's cold stare haunted her. She sat alone in her office, staring at the list. 23 names, each name a life, a missing child. Some names were faded, almost unreadable, but one name was underlined twice. Emily J. Claire opened the cold case file for Emily Jenkins, a 6-year-old girl who vanished from her backyard 9 years ago. No clues, no suspects. Only one strange detail in the report. Her older brother claimed she was taken by a man in a black van, but the boy was only 7 at the time, and no one believed him. Claire looked again at the man in the holding cell. Was he that boy? She walked back to the cell. The man was awake, sitting on the bench, still calm. He looked up when she arrived. Claire spoke softly. Is your name Aaron? He didn't answer, but his eyes blinked once. Slowly, she placed Emily's photo in front of him. She's your sister, isn't she? His lips parted, but no sound came out. Then, finally, he whispered, I looked for her. Every day. Claire's chest tightened. Where did you go? Why didn't you come forward? Aaron leaned back. Because they would have killed me too. Who? He stared at the wall again. They called themselves the Quiet House. They take children and teach them to be invisible. No names, no voices, just eyes, just silence. Claire sat down across from him, her voice low. You escaped. Aaron nodded. I was 10 when I ran, but I never stopped looking for her. Claire showed him the map they found in his bag. What do these red X's mean? Places where I found traces, he replied. Shoes, drawings, notes. Things left behind. By the kids? He nodded. Some of them tried to escape too. Claire frowned. Why didn't you go to the police? Aaron's eyes darkened. I did. Twice. Both times, someone from inside came to the station. Both times, I ran. Claire understood now. This wasn't just a child abduction case. It was something deeper, something hidden. Covered up she stood. I need you to help me find Emily. Aaron looked into her eyes. I never stopped. Meanwhile, Officer Ray found something odd in the evidence room. He was looking through Aaron's bag again when he noticed a folded piece of cloth sewn into the bottom lining. Inside was a tiny microchip dot. He took it to the tech team. Minutes later, they accessed the data. It contained images, photos of children, time-stamped with GPS coordinates. Some dated back 10 years. Some just weeks ago. One photo made Claire freeze. A little girl in a yellow dress, standing near an old barn. A red scarf tied around her wrist. Claire zoomed in. That's the same scarf Emily was wearing the day she went missing. Aaron confirmed it. I found that barn 2 years ago. I went back 4 times. Always empty. Ray said, then let's go again. The team geared up. Claire, Aaron, and Ray drove 3 hours into the countryside. They arrived just before sunset. The barn stood tall but broken, wood rotting, paint peeling, a rusted padlock on the side door. Aaron pointed. There's a trapdoor behind the haystack. Claire and Ray pushed the hay aside and found a small wooden panel. They pried it open. Inside was a ladder, leading down into darkness. Claire clicked her flashlight on and climbed down. The air was cold. The walls were stone. It felt like a bunker. They followed the narrow tunnel. On the walls were small chalk, drawing stick figures, stars, and a word scratched over and over, quiet. They reached a room. Inside were mattresses, crumpled notes, food wrappers, and a small music box playing a broken tune. Claire whispered, children lived here. Ray found a list taped to the wall. It had initials and numbers beside each, most likely dates. Some crossed out. One line stood out. EJ transfer 09-14. Claire checked her phone. That's just 5 days from now. Aaron leaned in. She's still alive. They raced back up the ladder. Claire made calls, pulled in favors. She traced the nearest property owner. The land was owned by a fake company, no real address. But the paper trail led to a man named Marcus DeLay. He was a retired child psychologist with a history of working with foster care agencies. No criminal record. Clean reputation. Too clean. They paid him a visit the next morning. Marcus answered the door with a calm smile. Officers, can I help you? Claire showed him the photo. Do you recognize this girl? He glanced at it. No. Sorry. Aaron stared at him silently. Ray stepped inside. We have reason to believe you've been part of an illegal network involving missing children. Marcus's smile faded. That's a serious accusation, Claire replied, and we have serious evidence. They searched the house. At first, nothing. Everything looked perfect. Then Aaron stopped in front of a bookshelf. He tilted one of the books slightly. The shelf clicked. A secret door opened. Behind it, a staircase. Claire's heart pounded. They descended slowly, weapons drawn. The basement was unlike anything they expected. The next morning, the station was full of whispers. Everyone had heard about the secret basement, the cages, and the scarf. Officers moved quickly, printing files, checking records, making phone calls, but no one spoke loudly. It was as if the truth itself was too heavy to carry in full voice. Aaron sat quietly in the interview room. His hands were on the table, fingers gently moving across the red scarf. It was the only piece of his sister he had left. His eyes were focused, but behind them, memories raced like broken film. Cold nights. Her voice, the day she disappeared. Claire stepped into the room and placed a folder in front of him. We ran Marcus Dell's name through everything. He's connected to 6 foster homes and 4 counseling centers. Most are closed now, but the reports, they're disturbing. Aaron looked at the photo inside the file. It showed another basement, another cage. Claire continued. All had the same setup. Kids went in, never came out. Aaron spoke softly. He didn't act alone. I know, Claire replied. We found more names. People who visited the homes, regularly, social workers, inspectors, even doctors. Aaron leaned back. It's a network. Claire nodded. We just need to find the next location. Just then, Officer Ray rushed in with a new lead. We found another match from Aaron's list. A girl named Leela Anderson, reported missing 6 years ago. New foster family at the time. The home was listed under a woman named Julia Crane. Claire flipped through the file. Julia used to work under Marcus Dell. She opened a rehab center in a remote area up north. Shut down 2 years ago. After a fire. Aaron asked, was it real? Unclear, Ray said. But here's the strange part, Julia disappeared right after the fire. No trace since then. Claire closed the folder. We go there. 3 hours later, the team arrived at the burnt-down center. The building was half collapsed. Trees had grown around it. The air was thick with silence and ash. Claire stepped over broken glass. If anyone was here, they left fast. Aaron pointed to the back wall. There, that used to be the dorms. They found a staircase leading to the basement, mostly untouched by the fire. Inside were blackened mattresses, melted toys, and burned notebooks. But one notebook was partly safe. Aaron opened it and saw something that stopped his breath. A drawing, a girl in a yellow dress, and a boy standing beside her below it. In messy handwriting, he'll come for me. Claire looked over his shoulder. That's you. Aaron nodded, his voice breaking. She remembered. On the last page, a set of numbers was written. 48.3010-120.7355. Coordinates. Ray entered them into his phone. That's deep in the mountains. Old Ranger Station. Abandoned years ago. Claire looked at Aaron. Do you think she's there? I have to believe it. They left immediately. As they drove through winding roads and dark forests, rain began to fall. The signal dropped. Everything felt isolated, silent. By the time they reached the ranger station, the sun was setting. The building was covered in vines and fog. It looked dead, but Aaron stepped out of the car. His eyes locked on the front door. She's here, he said. The team moved carefully. Claire and Ray took the back. Aaron and another officer entered through the front. Inside was dust, rot, and old furniture, but then a sound. A soft bell. Claire called out. Police? If anyone's here, make yourself known. No reply. Then a voice. Small, trembling. Don't hurt me. Aaron turned sharply. Emily. From under a table, a girl slowly crawled out. Her hair was long and tangled, her dress torn. But her eyes were the same. Aaron dropped to his knees. It's me. It's Aaron. She stared, confused at first. Then her lips trembled. Aaron. He nodded, tears falling. I found you. She ran into his arms. Claire stepped forward, her voice choking. She's alive. They carried her outside. Emily cried quietly, gripping Aaron's coat tightly. Suddenly a gunshot echoed through the trees. Ray shouted, we're not alone. They ducked behind the car. Another shot came, hitting a tree nearby. Claire pulled out her radio. Officer under fire at Old Ranger Station. Request immediate backup. Aaron shielded Emily. They followed us. Ray returned fire. We need to move. Using smoke grenades from the vehicle, the team created cover. Claire grabbed Emily and ran for the second car. Ray and another officer gave cover fire. They sped off through the trees, tires skidding on wet ground. Back at the station, Emily was checked by medical staff. She was dehydrated, bruised, but alive. Her voice was quiet, but clear. They said, no one would find me. They said my brother was dead. Aaron held her hand. They were wrong. Claire entered, holding a report. We found a trail. That shooter is connected to a security group owned by one of Marcus Dell's donors. They're hunting anyone tied to this. Aaron asked, how far does this go? Claire sat down. Too far. Government records, private companies, even charity groups, they all have something to hide. Aaron looked at Emily. Then we bring all of it into the light. She nodded, her small fingers squeezing his. That night, news of Emily's rescue spread across the city. But while the world watched the headlines, Aaron sat alone in the hallway, staring at the list of names. 20-3. And now, one had been found, but 22 still waited, and he wasn't stopping. The next day, the air inside the station felt different. It wasn't just because Emily was alive, it was something deeper. Something had changed. Officers moved with urgency, but also with care. They had seen the truth. And now they couldn't ignore it. Emily stayed in a quiet room under protective care. She barely spoke, except when Aaron was near. She didn't let go of his hand, not even for a second. She was still scared of the dark, of footsteps in the hallway, of people in uniforms. But with Aaron beside her, she felt safer. Claire sat in her office, going over Emily's medical report. Bruises, malnutrition, signs of long-term emotional trauma, but no serious injuries. Somehow, she had survived all those years. Somehow, she had held on. Ray walked in with a new file. We traced the shooter's weapon. It's registered to a security firm, Black Rose Solutions, private company, no official connection to law enforcement. Claire frowned. Who hired them? Ray sighed. That's where it gets messy. The company is funded by a nonprofit group called Haven's Path. Claire looked up. The children's charity. Yeah, turns out they own 4 properties around the state, all used for rehabilitation of troubled youth. Claire stood. We need to search them all. Aaron stepped into the office. Start with the one in Brighton. Emily mentioned that name once while she was sleeping. That same day, Claire got a judge to approve emergency warrants. By the afternoon, 2 search teams were on the road, one heading to Brighton, the other to a second facility. In Lakemont. Claire, Ray, and Aaron joined the Brighton team. When they reached the building, it looked harmless. A white 2-story house with flowers in the yard and a wooden welcome sign. But inside, the truth was anything but gentle. Locked doors, soundproof rooms, no windows in the children's quarters, faded wallpaper, and hidden cameras. It wasn't a home, it was a trap. They found 5 children inside, none older than 10, none with any legal paperwork. Some were too scared to speak. One girl whispered, "They said our parents didn't want us." Claire's hands shook as she called for ambulances. "We're going to get you out," she told them gently. Aaron walked through the halls, looking at the photos on the walls. Smiling children, painted rainbows. It was all fake. All a cover. He turned a corner and stopped. There, on the wall, was a photo of Emily, maybe 6 or 7 years old. She was standing with a man whose face had been scratched out, but her eyes were unmistakable. He called Claire over. "This proves it. They moved her through here. They used this place." Claire took a deep breath. "And there are more." Meanwhile, at the Lakemont facility, the second team found similar evidence. More children, more files, more lies. Each center had its own pattern. Move the kids, change their names, erase their pasts. That night, all 5 rescued children were brought to the same hospital where Emily was staying. The kids didn't know each other, but when they saw Emily, one of the younger boys ran to her and hugged her tightly. Aaron stepped back, stunned. Emily smiled softly. "This is Ben. He was with me a long time ago." Ben clung to her. "I thought they took you forever." Aaron looked at Claire. "They've been moving them like ghosts." Ray came in with a list of names. "All kids from Aaron's paper? We've confirmed 6 now," Claire said, "and we still have 16 missing." Emily sat with the other kids, comforting them. Somehow, even after years of pain, she had the heart to protect them. Aaron watched her closely. She had changed. She wasn't just his sister anymore. She was part of something bigger. That evening, Claire received a sealed envelope delivered by hand. Inside was a photo of another child, this time, a boy around 10 years old. On the back of the photo was a single word: tomorrow. Claire's blood ran cold. Ray checked the times. This was taken less than 24 hours ago. Aaron took the photo and pointed at the corner. "That's the same curtain pattern from the Lakemont house." Ray checked the time logs. "We were there 12 hours ago. This boy wasn't." Claire said, "They're moving them faster. They know we're coming." Aaron clenched his fists. "We need to act now." Claire looked at the kids resting nearby. "We have to protect them first. Then we keep going." The next morning, a journalist arrived at the station. Her name was Mia Reed, known for exposing government cover-ups. She had heard rumors and wanted answers. Claire met her privately and handed her copies of the search warrants. Medical. The following morning, the station was under tight security. Reporters had started gathering outside. News vans lined the streets. The article Mia read published had gone viral overnight. The headline was bold and terrifying. "Children found in hidden facilities. What are authorities hiding?" Inside, Claire scrolled through the comments. People were shocked, furious, heartbroken. Some offered support. Others demanded justice. A few questioned everything. Ray walked in, placing 2 coffees on her desk. "Phones haven't stopped ringing. The governor wants answers. So does the mayor." Claire took a sip and nodded. "Good. Let them look. Let them see." In the back room, Aaron stood beside a map. Red dots covered the Statichwana place. From his list, each dot meant a child was once there. Some were now rescued, some still waiting. Emily and the other rescued children remained under protective custody. Doctors said they were stable, but quiet, scared to sleep. One of the girls, Stu, cried when the lights turned off. Aaron looked at Claire. "We can't wait anymore. They'll move the kids again." Claire agreed. "We need to find their next step, where they go after Lakemont and Brighton." Ray entered, holding a file. "I think I have it." He opened it on the table. Inside was a document on internal email from Haven's Path. It spoke about Project Echo, scheduled to begin this week in an area called Hollow Pines. Claire frowned. "That place was shut down 5 years ago." Ray nodded. "On paper, yes, but I ran the utilities. Electricity and water were restored 2 months ago." Aaron leaned forward. "They're rebuilding it." Claire picked up her badge. "Then, that's where we go next." They moved fast. A team of 6 officers, unmarked cars, drone surveillance. Aaron went with them, despite Claire's hesitation, but she knew he understood this better than anyone. By evening, they reached Hollow Pines. It was deep in the forest, cold, quiet, and far from any town. A wire fence surrounded the old buildings, now freshly painted. Claire looked through binoculars. "There's movement. 3 guards. No sign of children yet." Ray pointed at a delivery van. "Let's follow it." They split into 2 groups. Aaron and Claire followed the van, while Ray circled the facility. The van stopped at a small building, near the back. 2 men got out and carried in boxers. Claire signaled for silence. She and Aaron crept closer. Through a crack in the window, they saw beds. Tiny ones. Metal frames. Shelves full of clothes. And in the corner security monitors, one showed a locked room with 5 children sitting silently. Aaron whispered. "They're here," Claire called. "For backup?" But before they could move, a guard stepped out and spotted them. "Hey!" He pulled the gun. Claire fired, first aiming low. He dropped, screaming, but alive. The noise alerted the others. Within seconds, alarms blared across the facility. Voice came through the radio. "We're compromised." Moving in, Aaron ran toward the back entrance. Claire followed, heart pounding. Inside the building, 2 guards tried to stop them. One tackled Aaron. They fell hard. Claire fired at the wall, the noise causing the second guard to flee. Aaron punched the first man and grabbed his keys. They reached the locked room. The children inside stared, too afraid to move. Claire opened the door. "We're here to help." Still, no one moved. One girl began crying. Aaron knelt. "It's okay. You're safe now." His voice cracked, but calm. A little boy whispered, "Are you with the bad people?" Aaron shook his head. "No, I used to be where you are, but I got out, and now I'm here to take you home." That was enough. The children ran into their arms. Claire called for medical teams. Within minutes, sirens echoed through the trees. Officers took control. Guards were arrested. Files were seized. In the control room, Ray found something huge. "Claire, you need to see this." She entered and stared at the screen. Live footage. Different rooms. Different locations. One had 10 kids in a dark basement. Another had only 2. Crying. Locked in cages. Aaron looked at the folder on the table. "These are live feeds." Ray nodded. "They're streaming, which means they're not just hiding these kids. They're recording them. Selling them." Claire's stomach turned. "We need the servers." They pulled the hard drives, laptops, and backup devices. Everything was handed over to the cybercrime division. As the kids were taken out, one of them looked up at Aaron. "You came?" Aaron smiled softly. "I promised." Back at the station, chaos continued. News of the Hollow Pines raid spread quickly. More evidence. More survivors. More names. One name stood out. Rachel Ellis. Missing for 8 years. Her mother had died, believing she'd never be found. Now, Rachel was sitting in the hospital, eating jelly with Emily. They had known each other. They had shared the same fear. Now they shared something else. Hope. Aaron visited them both. They asked him questions. He answered gently. "Were you scared too?" "Yes," he said. "For a long time?" "Why did you come back?" "Because someone has to. Because I don't want anyone else to feel alone." Claire walked in with new updates. 3 more children confirmed. "All from your list." "Aaron, you were right. Every single red dot means something." He didn't say anything. Just stared at the map. So many dots still unmarked. So many stories still hidden. That night, Aaron stood outside under the stars again. He didn't cry. He just stood still, breathing. Remembering. Claire joined him. "You saved them." Aaron shook his head. "We saved them?" she asked. "You ready for what comes next?" He looked at the city lights in the distance. "No," he said honestly, "but I'll keep going anyway." Because the silence was over, and the war for truth had only just begun. The world was no longer silent. News channels played clips of children being rescued from underground rooms. Social media overflowed with videos of crying mothers hugging children they thought they'd never see again. The headline on every screen read, "The hidden network busted." At the center of it all stood AaronQuiet.com, and still unknown. To most of the world, he didn't want fame. He didn't want interviews. He only wanted to keep going. Because for every child saved, there were still more out there, waiting. Inside the station, Claire watched the cybercrime team piece together. The data from Hollow Pines files were being decrypted, video streams traced. One of the agents, a young man named Joel, called her over. "We've traced some of the server connections to out-of-state addresses," he said. "One goes to Arizona, another to a warehouse in Nevada. These aren't just local operations." Claire sighed. "How many total locations?" Joel hesitated. "More than 40, possibly 50. Some are inactive, some still running." Aaron, standing behind them, heard every word. His hands clenched at his sides. 50 places like Hollow Pines. Joel nodded slowly. "Maybe more. Some servers are rerouting through foreign networks." "This goes deep." Claire turned to Aaron. "Your list, did it include anything outside this state?" Aaron reached into his coat pocket and unfolded a worn piece of paper. He pointed to a symbol next to some names, a small triangle drawn in red. "That symbol meant moved out," he said. "They moved some kids across state lines. They used different homes, different vans, never the same driver." Joel looked impressed. "How did you even track all this?" Aaron replied, "By remembering everything they taught me, then doing the opposite." Later that evening, Claire gathered a special task force, officers, agents, and experts. Some had worked on missing persons cases for years. Others had never heard of what was happening until now. She addressed them firmly. "This is no longer a local case. This is national, maybe global. We're not just dealing with criminals. We're dealing with organized traffickers using the foster system as a weapon." She looked around the room. "Some of the names involved are respected people. doctors, politicians, charity leaders. We exposed them all. The team nodded. That night, Aaron sat beside Emily at the hospital. She was stronger now, smiling more, drawing pictures with the other children. She showed him one. It was of a house with a big tree and a swing. This is where I want to live one day, she said softly. With you? Aaron smiled gently. Then I'll build it. Emily leaned close. Do you think the bad people are still looking for us? Aaron looked her in the eyes. They might be, but now, the whole world is watching. They can't hide anymore. Suddenly, Claire walked in, holding a folder. Her face was pale. What is it? Aaron asked. She placed the folder on the table. Inside were photos of a man tall, gray hair, expensive suit. His name is Frederick Lang, she said. He's a major donor to Haven's Path, also a board member for 3 orphan programs. Aaron flipped through the pages. His expression changed. I know him, he said coldly. He visited us once. Not often. But when he did, kids were moved after. Claire nodded. We think he's running the upper side of this operation. He never touches the children. He just moves the money, protects the others, creates the paperwork. Aaron looked at her. Then we go after him. Claire agreed. He's in town for a charity gala tomorrow night. That's our window. The next evening, the team dressed in formal clothes and blended into the crowd. At the event, the ballroom sparkled with crystal lights. Soft music played, and the smell of expensive food filled the air. Frederick Lang stood near the stage, smiling and shaking hands. His speech was about saving the children and building a safer tomorrow. Aaron watched from the side, his jaw tightened. He's lying to every person in this room. Claire replied, not for long. Ray approached. We've got the surveillance equipment ready. The room next to his office is bugged. He'll make a call soon. They waited. The arrest of Frederick Lang made headlines around the globe. Photos of his handcuffed wrists flashed across every screen. The media called it the fall of a philanthropist. The man who once stood on stages talking about saving children had been unmasked as one of the masterminds behind their suffering. But for Aaron, it wasn't justice yet. Not until every child on his list was found at the station. Agents worked around the clock. Servers from the raids were still being decoded. Hidden files, secret communications, and dark web transfers were being uncovered by the hour. Each new folder brought more names, more pain, more missing children. Claire entered the war room holding a new report. We found 2 names on Lang's private jet log. He visited a remote airstrip in Kansas 3 times this year. There's no house or business near it, just a closed farm registered under a fake company. Aaron stood from the table. That's where they're keeping the others, Ray added. We also traced another transaction. Money was wired to a warehouse in Arizona just 3 days ago. It matches the timing of that photo we received of the boy in the cage. Claire looked between them. Then we split the teams. I'll lead Kansas. Ray, you take Arizona. And Aaron, I go with you, he interrupted. Claire nodded. Not biting at this time. By evening, they were airborne. A special task force flew under federal orders, with warrants ready. They landed near the Kansas site just before dawn. The sky was still dark, and a thick fog rolled across the fields. They approached the old farm slowly. No lights, no movement. But Aaron felt it. That familiar weight in his chest. The feeling he always got when something was wrong. A barn stood at the edge of the property. Claire signaled for the team to move in. They surrounded it from all sides. Inside, they found nothing but old tools and stacked hay. Claire whispered. They were here. Aaron scanned the walls. They are fresh nails. Something was mounted here recently. A trapdoor beneath the hay revealed a concrete tunnel. It led to a steel door, which was locked. One of the agents broke it open. The smell hit first damp, mold, and something else. Fear. They moved through the narrow space, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Then they heard it, a whimper. Claire raised her voice gently. It's okay, we're here to help. From behind a corner, a small boy peeked out. His face was dirty, eyes wide. He didn't speak. He just pointed behind him. They followed the boy to a room lined with cages. Inside were 7 more children's island frozen with fear. A few began to cry when they saw the uniforms. One reached out with trembling hands. Aaron ran to them. You're safe now. It's over. The rescue was quick but emotional. Each child had to be carried out. They didn't walk, they didn't run. They simply held on to the officers like they were lifelines. Outside, the fog began to lift as the sun rose. Claire called in medics and transport. She sat beside one of the girls, offering her water. The girl asked, Are you taking us to a place with windows? Claire's voice broke. Yes, sweetheart. With windows and sunlight. Aaron stood at the barn entrance watching the children being lifted into ambulances. For a moment, he closed his eyes and breathed deeply. Another dot from his map cleared. Meanwhile, in Arizona, Ray's team raided the warehouse. They rescued 5 more children. The building was disguised as a storage unit, but behind steel walls were rooms with surveillance cameras and reinforced doors. Ray found a board filled with schedules, initials, and flight times. One line made his blood run cold. Next shipment showed up. They had stopped it just in time. Back at the station that night, Claire received a call from the Attorney General's office. The case was now officially a federal operation. Multiple Arrests had been made. Over 100 children were rescued across 6 states. Dozens of names from Aaron's list had been confirmed, but there were still more, still gaps, still red X's with no faces. Claire entered the break room, where Aaron sat alone. "You should rest," she said. He shook his head. "I can't. I see their faces when I close my eyes." Claire sat beside him. "You did something the rest of us couldn't. You remembered when no one else did." He looked down. "I survived because of Emily. I wanted to find her. I didn't care if the world believed me. I just had to know." Claire touched his arm. "You found her, and now you've helped find so many others." Just then, a young officer stepped in holding a folder. "We've identified another name from Aaron's list, a boy named Jonah Rains, missing for 4 years. We found a match through one of the live stream screenshots. He's alive." Aaron stood quickly. "We're Berlin," the officer said. "Interpol has located the address? They're moving now." Claire nodded. "Call them. Tell them to send updates directly to us." Aaron leaned against the wall. "They really were selling them. All over the world." Claire's voice was low. "Yes, but now they're running." Aaron looked at the map once more. Only a few red dots remained. He touched one gently. "This one. This was the first." Claire glanced at it. "You never told us." He swallowed hard. "It was the place I escaped from, the one where I last saw Emily." She didn't ask more. She just stood beside him in silence. Later that night, Aaron visited Emily in the hospital. She was awake, drawing again. This time her picture was different. A group of children, smiling under a blue sky. One of them had a badge. One held a flashlight. One wore a big coat, just like Aaron. She looked up. "I drew you." He smiled. "It's perfect." Emily asked, "Do you think they're safe now? All the kids?" Aaron paused, then answered, "Honestly, not all, but more than yesterday." And with that, she nodded and went back to her drawing. Outside, the stars were bright again. The silence had broken. But Aaron knew there was still one last piece left, one last red dot, one final part of the story that hadn't been told yet, and he was going to finish it, no matter what it cost. The last red dot on Aaron's map stared back at him like an unfinished sentence. It marked the place where it all began, the facility he escaped from as a child, the one where he last saw Emily, the one where his nightmares were born. It was an old building deep in the woods of Montana, listed years ago as a private rehabilitation school, but shut down officially after a fire. Yet Aaron knew better. The fire was just another cover-up. It was the last untouched place, the final thread in a dark web that had stretched across years and states and innocent lives. Claire stood behind him in the briefing room, watching him trace the dot with his finger. "You sure you're ready for this?" she asked quietly. Aaron nodded. "I need to go back. Not just for me, for all of them." Within hours, Claire, Aaron, Ray, and a small elite team were flying across state lines, armed with warrants, federal backup, and the strength of everything they had uncovered. They were heading toward the end door, the beginning of something even bigger. The Montana forest was thick and silent. The path to the facility was overgrown, hidden from the road. The building looked abandoned from a distance, but as they got closer, signs of life became clear. Fresh tire tracks, trimmed grass, and faint smoke rising from a chimney. Claire whispered into her radio, "Move in quietly. Assume they're watching." Aaron's heart pounded as they approached the gates, the same gates he remembered running from all those years ago. The rusted metal creaked under their hands. It hadn't changed, not really. They split into teams. Claire and Aaron headed toward the east wing. Ray circled the back with 2 agents. Inside, the hallways were cold, empty, and quiet, but not silent. Somewhere, faint voices whispered, the kind of whispers that haunted dreams. Aaron paused at a hallway corner. "This is where they took Emily," he said softly. Claire placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll find what they tried to hide." They reached a locked door. Behind it, they heard movement. Claire signaled the team. With one hard kick, the door broke open. Inside was a small room with 2 men, one older, one in a security uniform. Both froze when they saw Aaron. The older man, Dr. Conrad Meller, spoke first. "You. I remember you." Aaron didn't answer. He just stepped forward. Claire raised her badge. "FBI. Hands where we can see them." The guards complied. Claire began searching the room while Aaron stood face to face with the man who once oversaw everything. "You told us we were broken," Aaron said. "You said no one would believe us." Dr. Meller's eyes didn't blink. "The world never wanted the truth. We just gave it what it asked for." Claire found a locked cabinet and pried it open. Inside were hard drives, old documents, and A-list, names, dates, and coded notes. At the bottom was a folder marked transfers, overseas. She pulled it out. "This is everything. Proof of where they were taken, when, and by whom." Ray's voice came through the radio. "We found a basement. 10 children inside, still breathing, still scared, but alive." Claire's breath caught. "You hear that?" she said to Dr. Meller. "You're done?" Within minutes, agents secured the building. The children were brought out, wrapped in blankets, eyes wide, clinging to the hands of strangers who, for the first time, were there to save them. Aaron knelt beside a little girl. Her face was bruised, her dress torn. He whispered, "You're safe now." She nodded slowly, a tear falling down her cheek. Outside, medics checked the children while officers arrested everyone connected to the facility. Dr. Meller stayed quiet, his head low. Aaron stood by the front gate, staring back at the place that once broke him. Claire came beside him. It's over. Aaron shook his head. No, but it's finally ending. Over the next week, every document, every file, every hard drive from Montana was examined.